Greetings, and thank you for joining Realms Revealed. In this video, we're going to explore one of the most fascinating mysteries in the Lord of the Rings saga, the final fate of the Nazgul. What became of them? After Éowyn and Merry killed the Witch King, what happened to them after the One Ring was destroyed? Did they survive the fall of Sauron, or did they perish with him? And what was their origin and history before they became the dreaded Ringwraiths? If you want to find out, make sure to watch this video until the end, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more content like this. The Nazgul, or the Ringwraiths, were once 9 mortal kings of men who were corrupted by the power of the Rings of Power that Sauron gave them in the Second Age. They became his most loyal and fearsome servants, bound to his will and his one ring. They were invisible to the naked eye, but they could be seen by those who wore the One Ring or by using other means, such as the palantiri or the elf-made blades. They wore black cloaks and armor to conceal their form, and they rode on black horses or later on winged creatures called fell beasts. They had no life of their own, but only existed as extensions of Sauron's malice. They were also immune to most weapons, except those forged by the elves or the dwarves, or those imbued with magic. They could only be killed by a special prophecy, or by the destruction of the One Ring. But who were these kings, and how did they fall under Sauron's influence? The names and identities of the Nazgul are mostly unknown, as they have been erased from history by Sauron's power. However, some clues can be found in the writings of Tolkien and his son Christopher, who edited and published some of his father's unfinished works. According to these sources, the 9 kings were from different regions and cultures of Middle-earth, and they had different motives and ambitions for accepting the rings from Sauron. Some of them were already evil, while others were deceived or seduced by the promise of wealth, power, or immortality. Here are some of the possible candidates for the Nazgul, based on the available evidence. The Witch King of Angmar. The leader and the most powerful of the Nazgul, he was probably a black Númenórean, a descendant of the corrupted kings of Númenor who followed Sauron in the Second Age. He founded the Kingdom of Angmar in the north and waged war against the northern kingdoms of Arnor, which were founded by the faithful Númenóreans who opposed Sauron. He also attacked the elves of Rivendell and Lothlórien and was eventually defeated by a coalition of elves and men, led by Glorfindel, who prophesied that he would not fall by the hand of man. He then fled to Mordor, where he became Sauron's second-in-command and the lord of Minas Morgul, the former city of Minas Ithil, which he captured from Gondor. He was also known as the Black Captain, the Lord of the Nazgul, and the Morgul King. Khamûl, the Easterling. The second-in-command of the Nazgul, he was the only one whose name was revealed by Tolkien. He was a king of the Easterlings, a people who lived in the lands east of Mordor, and who often served Sauron as his allies or slaves. He was also known as the Shadow of the East and the Black Easterling. He was the most active of the Nazgul after the Witch King, and he led the attack on Osgiliath, the former capital of Gondor, which he almost captured. He also pursued Frodo and his companions to Bree, where he encountered Aragorn at the Prancing Pony. He was later sent to Dol Guldur, the fortress of Sauron in Mirkwood, where he commanded the forces of the Dark Lord in the north. He was slain by the elves of Lothlórien, who attacked Dol Guldur after the fall of Sauron. The other 7 Nazgul. The names and origins of the other 7 Nazgul are not known for sure, but some speculations can be made based on the hints and clues given by Tolkien. Some of them may have been kings of Harad, the lands south of Mordor, where the people were dark-skinned and often hostile to Gondor. They may have been attracted by the rings as a means of expanding their domains and challenging the power of Gondor. Others may have been kings of Rhûn, the lands east of Mordor, where the people were fair-skinned and had a culture similar to the ancient Persians. They may have been lured by the rings as a way of achieving glory and fame. Some may have been kings of the Northmen, the ancestors of the Rohirrim and the Beornings, who lived in the lands between the Misty Mountains and Mirkwood. They may have been corrupted by the rings as a result of their greed and pride. And some may have been kings of unknown lands, far away from the known regions of Middle-earth, who were drawn to the rings by curiosity and ambition. Regardless of their backgrounds, all of the 9 kings succumbed to the power of the rings and became the Nazgul, the slaves of Sauron. They served him for over 4,000 years and witnessed the rise and fall of many kingdoms and empires. They were his most trusted and feared lieutenants, and they carried out his orders without question or mercy. They were the ultimate enemies of the free peoples of Middle-earth, and they would stop at nothing to reclaim the One Ring for their master. The Nazgul played a major role in the War of the Ring as they hunted for the ring-bearer, Frodo Baggins, across Middle-earth. They almost captured him at Weathertop, where they stabbed him with a Morgul blade. But he was saved by Aragorn and later by Elrond. They also pursued him to Rivendell, where they were swept away by the flood created by Gandalf and the elves. They then returned to Mordor, where they prepared for the final battle. One of them, the Witch King of Angmar, who was the leader of the Nazgul and the most powerful of them, led the attack on Minas Tirith, the capital of Gondor. He broke the gates of the city with a battering ram called Grond, and he faced Gandalf on the battlefield. However, before they could fight, he was distracted by the arrival of the Rohirrim, the horsemen of Rohan, who came to aid Gondor. He then went to the Pelennor fields, where he encountered King Theoden of Rohan and killed his horse, Snowmane. He was about to kill Theoden as well, but he was stopped by Éowyn, Theoden's niece, who disguised herself as a man. She challenged the Witch King, and he mocked her, saying that no living man could kill him, as it was foretold by the prophecy of Glorfindel, an elf lord who fought him in the past. However, Éowyn revealed herself to be a woman, and said, "But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Éowyn I am, Eormund's daughter. You stand between me and my lord and kin. Be gone, if you be not deathless. For living or dark undead, I will smite you, if you touch him." She then stabbed him in the face with her sword, which shattered. At the same time, Merry, a hobbit and a friend of Frodo, stabbed him in the back of the knee with an ancient dagger of the Barrow Downs, which had the power to break the spell that kept the Nazgul alive. The Witch King then gave a terrible cry, and his body and his fell beast collapsed on the ground. He was finally dead, and his crown rolled away. Éowyn and Merry were both injured by his black breath, but they were healed by Aragorn later. The death of the Witch King was a great blow to Sauron and the Nazgul, but it did not end their threat. The remaining 8 Ringwraiths still flew over the battlefield, spreading fear and despair among the enemies of Mordor. They also tried to stop the Eagles, who came to rescue Frodo and Sam from Mount Doom, where they had thrown the One Ring into the fire. However, as soon as the ring was destroyed, the Nazgul felt a terrible shock, and they lost their connection to Sauron and their own rings. They became powerless and helpless, and they fell from the sky, consumed by the flames of the erupting volcano. They were no more, and their evil deeds were undone. The Nazgul were not invincible, however. They had some weaknesses and enemies that could challenge or harm them. One of their weaknesses was their dependence on the One Ring, which gave them their power and their existence. If the One Ring was destroyed, they would also be destroyed, as they were linked to its fate. Another weakness was their vulnerability to fire, which could burn their cloaks and their flesh, and reveal their true form. They also feared water, which could hinder their movements and wash away their tracks. They also had a limited vision, which was based on the presence of the One Ring, and could be blinded by bright light. They also had a limited sense of smell, which could be confused by strong odors or herbs. They also had a limited sense of hearing, which could be deceived by noises or voices, and they also had a limited sense of touch, which could be numbed by cold or pain. One of their enemies was the elves, who were the first to perceive the evil of the rings and who refused to submit to Sauron. The elves had a special power and wisdom that could counter the Nazgul's influence and fear. They also had weapons and artifacts that could harm the Nazgul, such as the swords of Gondolin, the rings of power, and the file of Galadriel. Another enemy was the dwarves, who were also given rings by Sauron, but who proved to be too stubborn and resilient to be corrupted by them. The dwarves had a strong will and courage that could defy the Nazgul's threats and attacks. They also had weapons and armor that could withstand the Nazgul's blows, such as the axes of Durin, the mithril mail, and the horn of Helm Hammerhand. Another enemy was the hobbits, who were small and humble, but who had a surprising strength and endurance that could surprise the Nazgul. The hobbits had a simple and pure heart that could resist the Nazgul's temptation and despair. They also had weapons and tools that could injure the Nazgul, such as the daggers of the Barrow Downs, the sword of Bilbo, and the light of Eärendil. And another enemy was the men, who were the most numerous and diverse of the free peoples, and who had a great potential and destiny that could challenge the Nazgul. The men had a noble and heroic spirit that could inspire the Nazgul's awe and respect. They also had weapons and leaders that could kill the Nazgul, such as the sword of Elendil, the bow of Legolas, and the shield of Éowyn. The Nazgul's weaknesses and enemies were exploited by the heroes of the War of the Ring, who used their courage, wisdom, and skill to overcome the Nazgul's power and fear. They used fire to burn the Nazgul's cloaks and fell beasts, such as when Gandalf set the Nazgul's horses on fire at Weathertop, or when Legolas shot down a Nazgul's fell beast with a flaming arrow at the Black Gate. They used water to escape or trap the Nazgul, such as when Frodo crossed the ford of Bruinen, where the Nazgul were drowned by the flood, or when Aragorn led the army of the dead to the Corsairs' ships, where the Nazgul were unable to follow. They used light to blind or repel the Nazgul, such as when Frodo used the File of Galadriel to ward off the Nazgul at Cirith Ungol, or when Gandalf used his staff to confront the Witch King at Minas Tirith. They used herbs to mask or heal the Nazgul's wounds, such as when Aragorn used Athelas to treat Frodo's wound at Weathertop, or when Owen and Merry were cured of the Black Breath by Aragorn at the Houses of Healing. They used noises or voices to distract or deceive the Nazgul, such as when Pippin used the palantir to lure the Nazgul away from Frodo, or when Aragorn used the palantir to taunt Sauron and draw his attention away from Mount Doom. And they used cold or pain to numb or hurt the Nazgul, such as when Frodo put the One Ring on his finger at Mount Doom, which caused the Nazgul to feel a terrible agony, or when Éowyn and Merry stabbed the Witch King with their swords, which broke the spell that kept him alive. The fate of the Nazgul was thus sealed by the courage and sacrifice of the heroes of the free peoples of Middle-earth, who fought against the darkness and tyranny of Sauron. The Nazgul were once great kings, but they chose to serve the Dark Lord, and they paid the price for their betrayal. They became slaves of the One Ring, and they perished with it. They serve as a warning to all who are tempted by the power of the rings, and a reminder of the importance of resisting evil and staying true to oneself. But what happened to their rings and their fell beasts? According to Tolkien, the rings of the Nazgul were either held by Sauron or were destroyed by the fire of Mount Doom along with the One Ring. The fell beasts, which were not natural creatures but bred by the Dark Lord, also died with their riders, as they had no will of their own. However, some of their remains may have been preserved by the heat of the lava and may have been discovered by later explorers or archaeologists. Perhaps, in the Fourth Age, some brave or curious souls ventured into the ruins of Mordor and found the bones of the Nazgul and their mounts and wondered about their origins and history. Perhaps some of them even tried to recreate or revive them using dark magic or science and unleashed a new horror upon the world. Or perhaps they were left alone, forgotten and buried as a testament to the folly and the fall of the servants of Sauron. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a comment below and let me know what you think of the Nazgul and their fate. Also, if you have any suggestions for future topics, feel free to share them with me. I would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. Until next time, this is Realms Revealed, signing off.